Welcome back in, everybody, to Monday's edition of Birds 365. Just 8 days remaining until the Philadelphia Eagles report for training camp. The show is going to take on a whole new life when they report to training camp. We will have all sorts of things to talk about, developments from camp, updates on the depth chart, updates on the drama that took place in the last 7 weeks about comments on Jalen and Nick and all sorts of things. So going to be a very fun show these next couple of weeks. We appreciate all you guys being here, everybody in the chat. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you, even the guys I do not mention, but just to name a few: James Twiz, Dank Bird Gang, Bleed Green, James A, James Jones, James Carver. We got all sorts of Jameses, Johnny Mac. Shonuff 215, our buddy Shonuff, JM. Appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you all. Make sure you guys drop a like on the show. If you're enjoying the show, we appreciate it very much. Johnny Mac, let's talk edge rushers, man. How do you preview this position coming into the year? Obviously, lose Hassan Reddick, a very, very productive guy to get after the quarterback. You replace him with Bryce Huff, who you are very high on. How do you view the edge rushers coming into the year, coming into training camp here?
Yeah, we kind of talked about Bryce with Caden.
Yeah,
we're both pretty high on him. I mean, boy, I think people don't realize next gen stats. His pressure percentage was like 25%. 2 years ago, or not 25% last year. 2 years ago, he was in the 20s as well. And he led the NFL both times. Now, a lot of context to that. As I said, great supporting cast for people that don't know and think the Jets stink. Well, the Jets have stunk, but that's because of the quarterback issues and Aaron Rodgers getting hurt. They did not stink defensively because they have a lot of good players. You saw them shut down the Eagles last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Bryce Huff, by the way, destroyed the Eagles. And remember who the Eagles have playing tackle now. Jack Driscoll was in that game, so that factored in as well. But I think he's going to be a very good player. But this is a tightrope. You have to be honest at how he's trying to traverse, so to speak, in that he's trying to get younger, trying to get more cost effective, trying to get a longer shelf life versus what Hassan Reddick, and now you've seen, ironically, traded to the Jets. Now you see part of the problem. Hassan was never going to play here under the final year of his deal. He wants to be paid at a premium level. We're talking $25 to $30 million. And look, that's understandable from a Hassan Reddick standpoint. There's 2 players in the NFL who have had double-digit sacks in 4 consecutive seasons, and he's one of them. But I think the Eagles, and it's a difficult decision, and if you see the offseason Hard Knocks and people criticizing the Giants for their discussions about Saquon Barkley, be glad the Eagles aren't on that show so you could see the discussions about Hassan Reddick, because you would have heard some negative stuff,
100%.
at least from the perception of a fan. It's the ugly part of the league. He's played over 900 snaps. They ran Hassan Reddick into the ground. So their thought process basically is the descent is coming. Better to give up on a player a year early than a year late. All the negative, ugly things of the NFL. You can't just pay people for what they did. If you're good, you got to pay people for what you think they're going to do. And from the Eagles' standpoint, the wear and tear of the age, maybe it would have worked for one season.
Yeah, that's where I think it was. I think it was, you give a new deal, normally it's at least 2 years. I think that second year is probably what feared the Eagles more, where it's like, I'd rather go and get the younger guy that could still be ascending, versus now I'm going to have to pay 2 years of Hassan Reddick, who may be the same player this year, but probably is going to take a drop off the year after that.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and they might be wrong. But that's what they're betting on. I think they made the right decision, but their play on the field will determine it. And by the way, I think Hassan's going to have a very good year because of that supporting cast with the Jets. So it might look bad after this season. But I think if you fast forward to 2025, 2026, I think then it's going to start looking good for Howie Roseman. I think he made the right decision. Um, and we'll see how it shakes out. But he's the centerpiece of this pass rush. I mean, he's the guy.
How much stock, John, do you put in the other context? I mean, because those next gen stats you read are incredible. I mean, he led the league 2 years in a row in pass rush win rate. Is that what it was?
Pass rush, percentage. So, pressure.
Yeah, pressure percentage. I mean, that's an incredible stat. How much context or how much stock do you put in the other context of maybe a lesser role, not the main guy, only had one job, has a great team around him? I mean, how do you weigh that,
Yeah, a lot. I mean, part of it is, and I mentioned that with Caden, it's like he's going to be asked to do a heck of a lot more here. So it's not going to be just pin your ears back and go all
right.
the
That's
time.
part of the projection.
Yeah. So I don't expect it to stay near 25%, but I do expect it to be pretty consistent because when he does rush the passer, he's really difficult to deal with. And, one of the good things about Bick is he doesn't blitz a lot, but he takes advantage of his best pass rushers. And that might be, disguising things. He might drop somebody on the other side and blitz a linebacker. So it might look like a blitz, but it's not really a blitz. It's a zone blitz. You're still rushing 4. But it looks to the naked eye like he's blitzing, doing something more aggressive. And his whole pass rush plan is going to be generated to get Bryce Huff and Jalen Carter home. And he's one of the best at doing that. And Jalen, Jalen's on a different level because of his talent level. And Vic kind of said it, doesn't matter how we use him, he's going to be good. And I don't think Bryce is at that level, but I think he's going to be a very good pass rusher on this team.
Let's move on from Bryce Huff. Let's look at the rest of the room, Johnny Mac, made up of Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, first-round draft pick of 2023, last year's first-round draft pick. Picked, I think was he 30 or 31 overall? 31 overall?
I believe he's 30th.
30th overall. And then Brandon Graham, returning for year 15 in the NFL, obviously been a staple in Philly for a long time. His going out party this year. How do you view the rest of the room? Enough depth there?
A lot of it depends on Nolan Smith and what he's able to do. And, I think there's great hope. He was dealing with a shoulder injury. And he had a procedure to hopefully clear it up. He's also gotten a little bit bigger. So he seems more prepared. And he's still got talent. I mean, you see a pass rusher's under 4.4. He's got a ton of speed, unbelievable vertical leap, unbelievable broad jump, all the things that sort of measure explosion. Nolan Smith has it in spades. Now, I think Caden Steele brought up a good point. You don't necessarily see a good pass rush plan from him. So I think he kind of out athleticized people at Georgia.
Yeah.
And he needs to hone in and the technique and the handwork and be a little bit more scientific about it.
Yeah, the fundamentals of pass rushing.
Yeah, he's got to learn that stuff. And look, he's still got time. But I do, he's not third. Brandon's third. People are jumping the gun on that.
Oh, really? You think Brandon Graham's going to have a bigger role than Nolan?
Yeah.
I think that would be, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I see why you're saying it, but I think that would be a bad sign.
I don't necessarily, for whatever reason, because he's 160 and he's played more games than anybody else in the history of the Eagles. People keep saying Brandon Graham's regressed.
No, I'm not saying that. I just think your first-round draft pick, not this year, but 2 years ago now, should be playing more than your 35-year-old, 15-year vet that has done his job in the NFL. That strip sack Tom Brady for the win. Like, he did his job. It's time for Nolan to step up, no?
Well, yeah, I mean, they would like it, but I'm saying he's got to prove it.
Yeah, I get that.
If he plays at that, I just can't project Nolan Smith playing better than Brandon Graham. I just can't.
And if he doesn't, I think that's a problem. I'll be the first to say that.
And Brandon played 427 snaps last year, which is, they had him on a pitch count. And you saw late in the season he played more as, one of the few players the wheels didn't fall off. 112. Brandon Graham has had an amazing career. If you look, he kind of broke out in 2012. Is the late bloomer, had the injury. Chip was going to cut him for Travis Long. I'm gonna run down the list real quick. The PFF rankings. 2012, he was number 2 of 92. 2013, 19th of 88. 2014, 6th of 99, number 6 overall. 2015, number 10 of 108. 2016, number 2 of 111. 2017, the Super Bowl season, number 7 of 104.
Holy moly, BG.
2019, 15 of 104. 2020, number 10 of 110. 2021, he had the Achilles. 2022, he came back as a part-time player, 5th of 119, number 5 overall. 2023, number 15 of 112.
Is that just overall pass rush ratings on PFF?
Overall edge rusher rankings. So
edge rusher.
Everything, run defense.
Right. And then is there a minimum snaps played probably to qualify? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Those are, whoo, baby.
This is one of the greatest players in Eagles history.
And as you mentioned, he's played more snaps in Eagles green than any other player ever in history. Played more games.
Yeah, more games than anybody else. That's always been the thing of Brandon Graham. He's great two-way defensive end, edge rusher, whatever you want to call him. Great against the run, great generating pressure. He's not the best finisher, and I think he doesn't have long arms. He doesn't, he's short. So I think that affects his finisher, and he doesn't have the big sack numbers, which is why people don't understand how good he's been.
Flagger here says Graham doesn't have the stats to back up those ratings, but I guess his run pass balance is the reason he gets them.
Yeah, he's a tremendous all-around player. But the thing, back when, and I put this in my preview, back when conference calls with the opposing coach were a thing, and they were mandatory.
Yeah, they should bring that back. What the hell did they get rid of that for? COVID?
Coaches, whenever coaches don't want to do it, basically.
I don't care that you don't want to do it. You're a multi-billion-dollar organization.
By the way, it's interesting that all the old guys do it. Andy does it. Mike McCarthy does it.
Yeah, it's the young guys who are obsessed with the competitive advantage, which is really a whole lot of nothing. Do the damn interview.
Exactly.
I mean, paying all this money to watch these teams.
I am telling you, the respect opposing coaches had for Brandon Graham was astonishing, almost to a man. When you bring, I mean, the guy is one of the most underrated players because he doesn't have the sack numbers, ever. Even in his own town. I think people know he's good.
Yeah.
I think people don't know how good he was.
Yeah, and he's also an underrated person for anybody that's met Brandon Graham, John. I'm sure you know that. I mean, he's a highly rated person, and he's still an underrated person. He is.
People ask me my favorite Eagles, and I always say I always say Glenn Fry, Don Henley, Joe Walsh, my favorite Eagles. That's for old band people. But honestly, my favorite Eagle of all time is Brandon Graham.
Yeah.
And it's not close for number 2. And that's because of the type of person he is.
Yeah, just an amazing person. I've spoken with him many times behind the scenes. We've had him on our shows multiple times. Just a great guy. Just really, and he means what he means it. He's not. It's not a front. He is truly a great person. Now that doesn't dictate how he plays on the football field. But that Johnny Mack just read you the rankings. He's obviously been that good. As high of a rated Eagle as he is, he might still be very underrated. Very good stuff there, Johnny Mack from Brandon Graham. Hopefully he can have another good year, 15, and close out strong here in Philly. For sure will be in our Eagles Hall of Fame, obviously, at the famous strip sack of Tom Brady, which helped secure the Super Bowl after he put up over 500 yards. Nobody remembers that, Johnny Mack, because we won the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good stuff on the edge rushers. Anything else on the edge rushers? I mean, I think the Nolan thing is concerning.
Yeah, it's big.
Me.
I mean, it's big season for Josh Sweat. I mean, I think it's much bigger that Josh Sweat gets back to his 2022 Pro Bowl form. You hope for a significant upgrade from Nolan Smith in year 2, and that's important. But Josh Sweat need Josh Sweat to play at a high level. So I think he's one of the most important players of the NFL, of the Eagles this year. Josh Sweat. And like I said, it's not about want or hope. It's about need him to get back to where he was. And we'll see if he can do it. And then I would say if you're looking for maybe a surprise, it would be Julian Okwara.
Yeah, he's
former 3rd round pick of Detroit. Didn't work out there, but he's got a lot of talent. You got to see him in spring work because he's athletic, and they used him as that black defender who drops in coverage, and he doesn't look out of place when he's doing it. So if you're looking for a surprise, I would put the asterisk next to that name, Julian Okwara.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, John. We got about 9 minutes, just under 9 minutes to go in today's show. I thought we had a great show, by the way. Talked Nick Sirianni, talked with Caden Steele about the whole preview, basically, to training camp. Talked about the O-line, talked about the edge rushers now. Very good show. How many sacks do you think this team is good for this year, coming into the year? I mean, I know it's a tough question, and it's not your wheelhouse particularly, but 70 with Jonathan Gannon, boy, that sounds like a pipe dream. Like we might never.
Well,
reach that number again.
That's happened 3 times in NFL history.
I know. I mean, that's just amazing, though. How we view John. It's just amazing to read the comments and to think about how the fans view that season defensively when we had that type of history being made. Probably something that will never even come close to in the next 5 years.
No, if you had 50 in the NFL, you got a really good pass rush. 70 is absurd. I think if they get 50, Josh is in double digits. So
gotta be. I mean, you might even need 8 from Brandon.
Get to 50, not necessarily, but a lot depends on.
I mean, where all the numbers coming from? Let's just say Bryce Huff gets 50.
Well, Bryce, I think is good. You want double digits out of Jalen inside, which is, to me, it's more about impact. And if Bryce has 15, and I put that number out there a couple of weeks ago, because I think that's how high I am. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's how high on him as a pass rusher I am. And Jalen gets to double digits. The Eagles are going to have a good pass rush.
Yeah.
Whether they get to 50 or not, yeah, that depends. Josh has probably got to be near double digits, and Nolan's got to contribute more. Brandon's got to be in the 5-6 range. But anytime any team hits 50 in the NFL, that's good. 70, that's you're in the in a normal year. If you're at 50, you're battling for the league lead. you might be a couple behind. There's
Right.
usually one spike team. 70, that's absurd.
Absurd. It's historic. It's what it is. It's flat out historic, which is incredible to think about. But Johnny Mac, good show today. Any closing thoughts? We got about 6 minutes to go here. I mentioned we talked about Nick, which was an interesting thing. I mean, that you had that interview, you had that conversation with him that was initially off the record. When was that convo, by the way?
The end of mini camp is when he does it. And it's basically to give us a longer sort of deep dive session with the head coach. It's not about competition at a certain position. It's about more big picture thinking or injuries. That's for the press conferences, the normal press conferences. So it's always good to get an extended period with the head coach, and especially this season because obviously things have changed, and you get a good sort of background on where he is, where the Eagles are. And he explained a lot of things that, when you talk to other people in the organization, it starts, that's how you piece things together on what went on, what happened. Because I think the assumption, and it's a false narrative, the assumption is he was forced to step down as sort of the de facto leader of the offense. That's not the case. It probably would have been the case, but I think that's one of the strengths of Nick Sirianni. He can kind of read the room, and he knew where he was, and he made the decision himself. And what that does is it enables you to own it a little bit better and sort of spin things as, in the best way possible is how I would describe it.
Do you think it solved one problem in the short term for Nick, which I completely understand why he did what he did, because honestly, he probably wouldn't be here right now if he didn't have this plan set up when he met with Jeffrey Lurie. But does it create a bigger problem in the future? Like, is he going to get no respect regardless of whether they are successful or not? Because people are just going to say, "Oh, it's Kellen Moore," or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's going to happen. And like I said that early in the show, if this is a good offense, it's going to be, oh,
Kellen,
thank
yeah.
God Nick is out of the way. If it's a bad offense, it's going to be his fault. That's just part of it. He knows it. But I was looking for, and this is the quote he gave. He gave me is, you have to play the cards as they lie after that collapse. I got another opportunity to coach the team. I'm grateful for that. And my plan is to make Mr. Lurie know he made the right decision by bringing me back. So he knew you got to play the cards you're dealt. He knew what was coming, and you can handle that one of two ways. You can Doug Peterson it and say, no, I want my guys, or if you want to keep your job, you can do what Nick did. But to your point of, no, if this is a good offense, he's getting zero credit for it. Zero. And if it's a bad offense, he's going to get blamed. He's going to be, oh, Nick must be telling Kellen what to do. But it's not going to be a bad offense. So, it wasn't a bad offense last year, comparatively speaking to the rest of the league. But
The illusion was that it was bad, though.
Exactly. So, but you can't really worry about that kind of stuff, or certainly not.
Yeah, as long as the owner's happy, I guess Nick is good.
Yeah, and the owner wasn't happy.
No, but I mean, moving forward, I mean, if everybody says nobody cares that the offense was great because it wasn't Nick Sirianni, well, that's what everybody can say. But if Nick's keeping his job, I guess he has the last laugh.
Yeah, I mean, if they win the Super Bowl and people think he's not going to be the head coach and they're going to elevate Kellen Moore, because I've heard that. Oh, you got it. That's absurd. Kellen Moore probably going to be a head coach, but it's going to be elsewhere.
This is a good comment here. This is what I agree with. Nick earned the right to get it right. I agree with that for sure based on his first 3 years as head coach of the Eagles. I mean, look, you can have your gripes with Nick Sirianni, and I have plenty of them. Believe me, I will line up and list them all out. I have plenty of gripes with the guy. But as Johnny Mack mentioned, he's got the best winning percentage in the history of Eagles coaches. We went to the playoffs 3 straight years. We won the NFC title, something the Cowboys and the Commanders haven't done in 15 plus years. I mean, the guy has had a lot of success as the coach of the Eagles. Now, he's had a great team. There's a lot of other things that have gone into that, but you can't take that away from him. So, from that perspective, I do agree that he at least deserved the chance to get it right, and he did get that. So we'll see what he does with it this year.
Yeah, and it's it's an interesting way to do it. I criticized Jeffrey Lurie. I don't agree with it. I think he's trying to straddle the fence. Can it work? Sure. Will it work? I would have, done one or the other. Either give him the mulligan and say, you're the head coach, do what you want, or fire him and move on. Those were the two options. To me, Jeffrey chose to straddle the fence. And we'll see if it works.
We will see if it works. Good show today, Johnny Mack. We started off with some good commentary. You had a good point on what happened over the weekend. I don't want to get too deep into that. Obviously, we're just going to close out the show here. But just letting everybody know, I'm praying for you. I'm thinking of you. I want everybody to love one another, love their neighbor. We are all humans, everybody. We are not Hitlers. We are not any of these things. So,
if somebody doesn't have your opinion, it's not the end of the world.
It really
doesn't mean they're awful people. It doesn't mean that everything doesn't have to be an echo chamber. Come out of your echo chamber, listen to other people. You can disagree with them. Just be respectful about it. That's all anybody should ask for.
I 100% agree with that. And the last thing I'll say, and maybe I'll get some hate for it, and I'm all right with that. The guy who gets shot in the ear and stands up and pumps his fist.
Well, that worked out.
That's a pretty cool scene. I'm sorry if you're out there and you dislike it, but that's a guy that earned my vote as an American.
Yeah.
I like.
Well, yeah, I thought that was, he's a WWE Hall of Famer, Donald Trump.
Is.
So I thought Triple H scripted that very well.
But
that's a joke.
John, WWE, look, I love it, but this is a moment of pure fear. When gunshots are being fired.
It's a joke, obviously.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it was a pretty crazy thing that we saw unfold this weekend. Maybe the most crazy assassination attempt in almost 40 years since Ronald Reagan, and just a big moment in American history. I know everybody wanted us to stay on football. Well, we talked an hour and 57 minutes of Eagles football today, 8 days out from training camp. I think you guys are all right. Thanks everybody for being here. Make sure you guys drop a like on the show. Do something for somebody today that's nice out of the kindness of your heart, even if it's just a comment, even if it's just a hello and a smile. Do something for somebody today. Let's come together as Americans. I think that's a good thing for us all to do. Appreciate everybody being here. John, good show today, brother. We'll catch you tomorrow. All right, man?
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We will see you tomorrow on Birds